Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will. And I was just reminded right before this show started by the guest that this is actually almost a year to the date of the time she was on the first time. So I was like, wow, wow. So I know you've been waiting because I've been waiting on this show. And in case you can hear my voice, I'm not 100% back. But my voice went out on me and I kind of freaked out because I had to do a webinar for somebody else. But blessings, the voice came back and here I am. I am here tonight, this evening with Shinjini Das. How are you doing, Shinjini?
Good. How are you, Dr. Will?
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to build like you. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm now ready in the mental mind state to put together all of that I need to do to get to that next level. So thank you again for being a guest on the show.
Of course, thank you. I think you're so supportive, and I've enjoyed keeping up with you over the last year. So this is awesome, and I'm really excited.
Oh, thank you. So y'all for watching the show. The title of tonight's episode is "She's the Boss." We're going to be talking to Shajini about uh, what does it take to boss it up, to fulfill your greatest potential, learn a little more about her journey, and get some action steps for you to actually leave the show and start putting the work in yourself. So, for those who are watching the show and for some reason they don't know who you are, will you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Okay. So my name is Shinjini Das. I'm the go-getter girl on a mission to write one of the greatest stories ever written. And the reason I say that is because I really think that people should just be confident about wanting to be great. I think greatness first starts with wanting to be great. I know it's not surprising, but it is to some people. So yes, I'm the go-getter girl. Right now, I'm the founder and CEO of my own company. It's the DOS Media Group, which is a digital strategy consulting company. And I'm really excited to grow that over the next year. And then I am also CEO of my own brand. So, in terms of speaking engagements, in terms of media work, so I'm a media personality, keynote speaker, Huffington Post contributor. The list is like growing longer and longer. But long story short, in media, I'm very passionate about empowering women, very passionate about empowering really everyone to take action to achieve their greatest potential, right? So not just think about making stuff happen, but actually making stuff happen. So really excited to be here and excited to, and the reason I told you she's the boss is, I really think women, even today, are still sort of secondary. And so my thing is like, no, she's a boss. Like she's not just a wife, girlfriend, mother, like she's a boss. So that was the impetus behind that title.
I hear. But any of us who are married will always say she's the boss.
Right, exactly. There you go. Dr. Will knows what's up.
So I'm over here, I'm geeking out, right? Like I said, you're a boss, you're on TV,
Mhm.
you're in Forbes magazine, you're on all these podcasts, speaking everywhere. I could go on, but how did you get to this point in your career? How does one become self-aware enough to discover why they were put on this earth and what they were put on this earth to do?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dr. Will. I think it comes from a lot of introspection, a lot of just deep reflection, a lot of time spent alone. I think this is something that I've observed. And I'm 24, right? So I'm super young, and all my friends are my age. They have an issue being alone. They have an issue sort of not being with people all the time. And the reason that I am where I am today is because my foundation was spent by myself, right? So I grew up as an only child. Even in like I had friends, but I wasn't with them 24/7, and I think that has been really instrumental because I went through a lot of the sort of who am I, what do I want, am I happy? I went through all those questions early on because I was alone. Because I wasn't sort of focusing on, oh, what is he doing and what is she doing, and what does my mom want me to do? And it's like, it's your life. It's not your mom's life, not your dad's life, not your sister's life. It's your life, right? And so figuring out sort of what are your passions, what are your talents, what are you good at, what are you not so good at? Because my thing is, I am a firm believer in excellence, right? So you have to be good at what you're trying to do, right? That's how you make an impact. I think we would all agree that everybody who's made an impact is very good at what they do. They're actually probably the best at what they do. And so figuring out what that is, and let me tell you, I went through jobs. I went through just episodes where I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I should be doing this. And that's a good lesson too, right? To figure out and do a job and say, wow, that sucked. I should not be doing that, you know? And so I think that for me was also instrumental. And so I figured out, okay, I don't want this. So what do I like? Oh, I like being the boss. I really do. I like being the boss. I like making decisions. I like global impact. I love speaking. And so for me, it was like, how do I build a business around this? How do I build a business around speaking, around sort of being global? And I was like, oh my God, I have to create a brand. Like that's what that is. And so then that became that. But I think, you know, long story short, spend time alone, really alone, reflect, think about what do you like to do? What are you really good at? And what will the world pay you for? Right? Because I think that intersection is sort of that ideal intersection, you know, where you have money, you're doing what you love, and so you're obviously passionate, and then you know, are able to continue doing it because you are driven. So finding that intersection, you know, look, I'll be honest with you, I'm doing like something crazy that honestly not a lot of people will probably ever do and or have done. And so my thing is like, if I can figure this out, like y'all should be able to figure this out. You know what I mean? Like it's not difficult. It just requires time alone and focus and determination, you know, and then to make it happen, right? So then you have that vision, but it's like, okay, how do I create an action plan? How do I make goals? And then of course being open to learn, right? Because my thing is, you know, I graduated as an engineer. I have no relationship with media. I mean, friends, family, like no one. And so I've had to learn everything myself, from little things like how do you even be on TV? Like how do you even sit in a chair on TV? Just like as simple as that, to how do you write a blog post that actually is read, you know? And so I think being open to learn is another big thing. But I just want to say, like, it's not impossible. Like everybody's like, I don't know what I want to do. Like my thing is like, I understand where you're coming from, but I almost don't have that much sympathy for you, because if I could do this in 2 years at 24, like y'all should be able to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like y'all should be able to figure it out, because it takes time on your own, just sort of sitting there reflecting, thinking about what you're good at, what you want to do, and then ultimately how you want to impact the world. You know, I think it's all about thinking big. I think you can never think too big, so that's how you should boss it up.
Awesome. She's coming out swinging, folks, just like Gary Vee, just smacking folks upside the face. Like no excuse, no excuse. So you graduate, engineer, and most people with that type of background already sort of have a preset path of, I'm going to go work for this company and I'm going to do this. How did you know that becoming an entrepreneur was the right move for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I didn't in the beginning, right? That's why I went through some jobs that in retrospect, like, may not have been right for me, but happy to have done them and gotten that experience. But, you know, I went through some jobs, and between you and me, I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I don't even think I was doing that well. You know, it's like, because to me, it's like, if you're not fulfilled, you're not going to be doing that well. Like, I've never met somebody who is unfulfilled and is amazing at their job. Like, chances are that if you're unfulfilled, you're not happy, that shows in your work. And so you're not the best at your work. And so for me, that was a reality. But I thought, oh, you know, I gotta keep this going. You know, this is my full-time income. And then this other stuff is sort of my side hustle, my passion, my, you know, something that I just love to do. Oh, speaking, oh, I'm on TV, but you know, this is not paid yet, you know? So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm happy to quit a job, but only when I have income. And so I didn't have income for a while. And so I thought, wow, you know, maybe this is not the right time to jump ship. And so kept it up for about 1.5 years. And then that's when sort of the decision point came, and it was this year. And I thought, wow, love all of this, right? Really want to figure out how to build it all into a business. Obviously, media is a huge space, and like it's more impact than I could ever like hope to achieve. So I really want to do this, and so I think that was the big thing for me. It's like, I really want to do this. I really want to give it a shot, in terms of building my company, in terms of scaling my brand. And so, and then I made that decision on October 13th. That was my last day at my most recent job. And I told my boss, I said, look, I got to do this. I don't really have any other explanation other than this is what I was meant to do, and this is the time. And that was also the time when I had some revenue flowing and I had requests and offers, and my thing was like, I need to leave now so that I can build this even more. Because anybody knows, like, you cannot build that well when you have another job. Like, you're exhausted, you're tired. It's just not possible. And so for me, I was like, I have to leave now. I'm feeling this visceral desire to leave. And the last time I felt this way was when I signed with my publicist. And when everyone told me not to, everybody's like, don't do it, you're too young, this is TV. But I told them, I was like, look, I love you all, but this is my life, and I need to do this. It's like God is telling me to do this. It literally was what I said. And this was how I felt again in October. So literally just a couple months ago. And and I left. And so I thought, you know what, this is the time, I got to do it. And again, I want to be clear that I have some privileges that not everybody does. I'm living at home, so I'm living with my family, so I don't have to worry about rent. I don't have to worry about food. If you are in the situation that you have to worry about rent and food, I think the biggest thing is going to be to save. So work somewhere for 1 or 2 years, 3 years, save up that money so that you don't have to worry about rent. Because the thing is, once you're like 2 years in, typically you are stable. Like for me, next year will be a big year in terms of revenue, in terms of opportunities. And so I'm not worried. Like next year, I'm not worried. But I mean, the first year is like hell for anyone, in terms of money. Like, it's not realistic to think that you're going to be making, $100,000 your first year. Whereas next year after, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can make millions, right? But I think that first year is really hard. So to cushion yourself, I would say use your savings for those who have to, and then for those who have the privilege of, staying with a friend or whatever and not paying too much rent, that's the way to, because I want to be very upfront with everybody that this is not an option for everyone. And I recognize that, right? So for me, it was, and so I ate it, I jumped on it, but it isn't for everyone. So I don't want to like false lead people, be like, everyone should leave their job, because it's hard, dude. You know this. It's hard. It's really, really hard. It's a 24/7 schedule. But for me, I think a couple of things stood out. The freedom to be my own boss, the freedom to create my own world, my own opportunities, and then the freedom to be sort of the chief decision maker, so I'm not having to ask permission from people all the time. I'm not having to sort of run ideas by people all the time. It's like, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it, so I think that's amazing. And then of course the response has just been, phenomenal in terms of the speaking engagements and just articles and Twitter chats and all this. So I think credit to all of you for letting me do what I want to do. So yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about that side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my audience, they're teachers, so they have full-time gigs already. Right. But how does one develop an action plan for taking the idea of the side hustle into the reality of actually having paid clients?
Yeah. So I literally did that. So I can talk from my own experience. I think number one is expertise, right? Again, I'm a big believer in performance, right? So I don't care how much publicity you have, how much, marketing you have. Like, if you're not good, you're going to be screwed sooner rather than later, right? So my thing is, be good, make sure that you're the best at what you do. So whether that's looking at other people in a similar space, and again, all of us have different sort of backgrounds, right? So I can't claim to be an educator or expert there, but for me, I'll tell you my example. So in the beginning, I was speaking, but I wasn't a paid speaker, I wasn't a professional speaker. So I really had to up my game, in order to be in a position to charge 4 figures for a speech, right, from zero. Because I think when you are giving a free speech, the implications are like, oh yeah, it's free, like whatever, like she can do whatever. But I mean, when someone is paying 4 figures, they expect a product that is 4 figures, right? And so I think that for me was a process of figuring out, okay, how do I up my game? How do I become an amazing professional speaker? And so I watched videos, I learned, I thought, I reflected, that if I'm in the audience, what do I care about? What do I want to see? How do I connect with my audiences so that when I leave, they're still talking about me? So I really went through that process. So I think number one is be amazing at what you do, right? And really, you know, make an effort to be better at your work. So I think that's number one. Number two is like you said, dude, like money is important. Like anybody who says it's not, they're either poor or delusional or both. So I think it's like money is really important. So for me, I actually made sort of a model. I was like, okay, so what are my service offerings? So I write articles, I give speeches, I, you know, am sort of consulting, or, you know, whatever my different service offerings are. And then I thought, okay, how do I price this? You know, so when I write an article, how much is that? Is that, you know, 200 an article? Is that 500 an article? Is that you know, what is that price range? And so really putting together a list in your own head, or, you know, writing it out, typing it out, is really helpful, because I think a lot of us get into the thing of like, oh, we're not, you know, we do it for free, you know, goodness of our heart. But one thing I want to say is, when you transition from a side hustle to an actual business, you are a business person, right? For most people, that is starting their own company, in which case you have to behave like a business person, right? So, and I think that for me was a very conscious change, because before I was like, oh, you know, I'm an advocate, I'm a speaker. Now it's like, no, I'm a professional speaker. I do not come for free. You know, I am a writer. You know, I don't come for free, right? So, and if someone doesn't have, like, I do coaching. Literally for the show, I rejected someone. I was like, look, dude, like, I cannot work with you for $50. Like, I cannot, you know? So if you are interested, here's my range, right? If you can meet it, great. If not, bye. Like, just being very okay with doing that. I've seen a lot of people struggle with that. You know, they're like, oh, but, you know, he's so great, and, you know, he doesn't have the budget. But it's like, you're running a business now. To behave like that, and that means giving up a lot of opportunities, you know, because people can't meet your fees, or they, you know, are difficult. You know, if clients are overly difficult, sometimes it's not worth it for you to pursue them, right? Or be sort of in working relationships with them. Because for me, I mean, I am big on just like responsiveness, and when I send you something, like, I need to hear back in a day or two, and if I don't, I might drop you, you know. And I'm not apologetic about that, because my thing is, if I can respond to you in less than 5 minutes and every day, then you should be able to respond to me, because it's 99.9% I'm busier than you, you know. So so just being very like upfront about that, and changing that mentality from, oh, I'm a, you know, this, you know, creative person, to I'm a business person. So I think that's number two. Number three is valuing yourself. You know, I think a lot of people don't understand their own worth. As a result, they undercharge, right? And so, you know, figuring out, sort of doing research, you know, doing research and saying, okay, what are people? So for me, like, what are people charging for speech? Is it 2K? Is it 20K? Is it 50K? You know, and if so, like, what is their experience, and how do I fall in that range, and where do I fall in that range? So just figuring out sort of the industry standards, right? Because for all of us, what we're doing, I mean, nothing is, you know, so new, right? So chances are, like, I can figure out how much professional speakers are charging. You can figure out how much, you know, educators are charging for consultations. And so most of this information is available online. Make sure that you're not undervaluing yourself, because especially when you're self-employed, like, who knows what you're worth, right? So if I tell you that one of my speeches is 20K and you buy it, and I tell somebody else it's 2K, like, who loses? I lose, because I didn't charge the other guy 20K. You know what I mean? So making sure that you're, like, sensible about money, because that's something that I believe very strongly in, that you have to be financially empowered, and not be embarrassed, you know, of charging a lot, because if that's what you're worth, that's what you're worth. I mean, there are movie stars who make 20 million a movie. Like, who's to say, you know, that someone deserves $20 million for, like, a 1.5 hour movie? But if somebody's willing to pay that, they deserve it, you know? And so figuring out sort of what your worth is, and being super unapologetic about that, is huge. Because again, the transition is, you're not just like a cute little writer anymore. Like, you're an author, right? Or you're not just a cute little speaker, you're a professional speaker. So sort of changing your lens to being like, oh my God, I'm a business person now. You know, I think that was a big shift for me.
Cool. Now I wanna stick right here, because
Yeah.
you dropped a lot of gems.
Yeah.
Right there, and I went through this same sort of awakening last year. I spoke at this conference that I've been speaking at for the past 4 years. People gave me great reviews. It was all good. And then I remember speaking to the person. I said, hey, I want to speak next year, but I want to get paid.
Mm.
And she was like, well, I don't, like this person will be doing it, but
Right.
talk to this person. And so I spoke to him and I said, hey, I want to get paid. And when I showed him some of the other stuff that I have done, he was like, oh, you real.
Yeah.
Like, like I kind of do this kind of thing.
Right.
And he went to the board and blah, blah, blah. And I submitted a proposal and that was approved, but I did get paid to do that thing.
Yeah.
But I sort of got to a point in my life, I was like, I'm presenting at all of these conferences, you know what I'm saying? And I'm doing this writing and I'm building up a little cachet for my name. I'm done speaking for the free. Especially when some of these speakers that they bring in, some of them I actually know personally. Now I don't know what they're making because I don't discuss that type of stuff with them.
Right.
But I know if you're bringing somebody in from out of state and you're paying them, I'm like, you're paying somebody, so why not pay me?
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
And so I bring it up to say, when should a person who they're starting that side hustle out and they're presenting at conferences, okay, they're doing some webinars, maybe they're speaking because they want to get their name out there. They want, and then they also want to say, hey, do I have the chops? When do they get to a point to where they can not only say to themselves, but to say publicly to people, I'm done for the free. If you want me, you better come with a fee. When will they know that?
That's a good question. That's a good question. And I will say that it's super ambiguous, right? Because again, especially with speaking, I'm sure in a lot of other industries too, but especially with speaking, super ambiguous because you're right. I mean, how do I, justify what I'm worth? Right? I think that, like you said, building up a collateral. This is the same case of sort of asking for promotion, right? So what do? You build up this list of, look, dude, I've done XYZ. I've increased your sales by 25%. I've brought in, 10% extra on the bottom line or whatever it is. And you give statistics, right? You give points, which are not disprovable, right? So it's not like somebody can be like, no, dude, you didn't do that. Like, it's like, no, look at your sheet, look at your Excel spreadsheet. What I brought in, maybe I'm an account executive, right? Account executive, I'll say, look, the 4 accounts that I manage, all gave me a total of 100K in sales. Wow, that's a lot greater than your other, account executives, or, that's a lot greater than what I was doing last year, whatever it is, right? So make sure you're dealing on objective facts, right? Because I think whenever you deal subjectively, there's always a chance of being like, no, dude, like, I don't like you though. But this is not a question of whether you like me or not. This is a question of what I've done, right? So focusing on objective accomplishments is always better. And honestly, that's been my strategy. Because in the beginning, I was also wondering, I was like, oh, people are going to like me. Because, with speaking, there is definitely a very high likability factor, right? So if people don't like you, if people don't enjoy you, if people don't sort of feel good about you, they're not going to ask you to speak, right? So whether that's education, whether that's business, whether that's entrepreneurship. And so for me, I was worried about it. I was like, do people like me? And I was like, you know what, screw that. Like, I hope they like me, but I'm going to focus on accomplishments. So I'm going to do the Forbes podcast. I'm going to be, profiled on Forbes, and I'm going to be profiled on Inc. And be like, holy shit, like, not free, guys, like, not free, right? So I would say focus on accomplishments. And so for me, that's media. For you, that could be just a bunch of speeches, and not just a bunch of speeches, collect testimonials from each one, right? Collect audience sizes from each one, photograph each one so that you have collateral, right? Because I think the biggest thing people do is, because that's what you're doing, you're asking for promotion, right? You're saying that, hey, so far I've been speaking for free. Oh, by the way, now I deserve more. Here's why I deserve more. So really having that collateral, which is not arguable, right? So nobody can be like, guys, like 200 people didn't show up there. Be like, no, they did. Like that, that's not an opinion. That's a fact. That 200 people showed up and that I spoke and I got 4 amazing testimonials from higher up people in the education industry, right? So I would say create a collateral and have that collateral be there. And it's also good for you, right? I mean, I know I'm sure you do this. I do this, updating my testimonials on my website, updating photos on my website, being like, look, spoke to 10,000 people, guys, not free, right? That's how you build up the thing. But again, focusing on facts, not opinions, not random things, just literally like accomplishments, and I think quantifying those as much as you can is super helpful. So I would say start there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. This is some great information tonight, people. Um, so when you talk about earlier, you talked about how people need to be excellent and
Mm-hmm.
uh, really bring it and know what they have to offer. So knowing that we can't be all things to all people, how
Mm-hmm.
does one go about the work of defining their unique value proposition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say 100% focus, right? Like you said, I cannot be the best A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. That's not realistic. Having said that, like I'll talk from my experience, I do a lot of things, right? So I probably should not be the first one to be like, only do one thing. Like that, I don't even follow that. And so, but I think what I will say is totally fine to do a million things, totally fine to, have a lot of sort of careers, but focus in on what binds all of that together, right? So for you, I mean, just from my interactions with you, you're very passionate about education. You're very passionate about teaching sort of that next generation about whatever topics it is you talk about and you teach about, right? So for me, your purpose, right, is to empower via knowledge, right? Because knowledge is power. For me, it's to really spread a lot of joy, a lot of love, a lot of empowerment, and encourage people to take action to achieve their full potential. How do I do that? Oh yeah, on TV and in articles and speaking and all this other stuff. So I would say 100% you can do a million things, totally fine, but make sure that those million things are bound by one overarching theme. Like if somebody talks about you, what are they going to associate you with? Right? So have that brand. And for me, it's like, I'm not saying that I have no idea what other people think of me. Like you have full power about how other people perceive you, right? Because like I'm putting out that energy, right? So it's not like they are just randomly saying that I do this. Like, no, like they're saying that I do this because I've put that out there. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that I want to make clear is a lot of people think that their brand is out of their control or their perception or their value is out of their control. But my thing is you define it. You define it, you put it out there. And so, for whoever listening, think about what are you amazing at, right? Excellence is key. The world does not reward mediocrity. The world does not, reward you being kind of good at something. It just doesn't, So number one is going to be, what are you excellent at? Number two is going to be, what do you just die to do? If you're willing to die for it, you're going to be successful. And I'll be very upfront with you. In my past, before entrepreneurship, I was not willing to die for what I was doing. I was not. And I wasn't as successful at it, and it's as simple as that, right? So for me now, like if you tell me to work 20 hours a day, like I will do it, because I'm really willing to die for this, right? Are you like, what is that thing that invigorates you and that motivates you to no end? And that's number two, right? Is that passion and that sort of undying fervor. So that's number two. Number three is what kind of value do you specifically provide that no one else does? Because again, the world does not sort of reward multiplicity and being like, you know what, I do this, and guess what, all of them do it too. Like that's not, you know what I mean? Like that's not special, right? So number three is sort of like, what is that special ingredient that you have? And a lot of people have told me, they're like, I don't know, I'm not that special. But that's not true, right? Because everyone has something that's different about them, right, than everyone else. And so my thing is, find what that is. For me, I'll be honest, when I first started, I mean, there are a lot of women on TV, so I can't be like, I'm the only person on TV. That's not true. So for me, the unique value proposition on my end is the versatility. Typically the person profiled in Forbes, wasn't quoted in Teen Vogue. The person who spoke at the UN wasn't in Forbes. And so for me, like that is the value proposition, that I provide a lot of very differentiated sort of experience and expertise. But whoever's listening, think about that. Think about, what do you love to do? What are you excellent at? And what is so different and so special about what you provide that no one else does? Because that's where the money is, right? So you are not going to be able to charge and this is in your job too, in a traditional job in entrepreneurship. the world doesn't reward you being as good as 50 other people. Like they want to know, what does Dr. Will do that no one else does, right? So figuring what that is going to be huge.
Awesome, awesome. So, we met on social media,
Right.
and it is such a powerful space for communication, connection, collaboration. How should folks be engaging? And what are your tips to maximize both your personal and professional experience with social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one is use it. I know not everyone uses it, so I think number one would definitely be to use it. I know, it's scary, it's scary to a lot of people. And you're amazing, right? You're on it, you're amazing. But a lot of people who are sort of out of that millennial age range, so out of the 18 to 34 group, from what I've heard, like they're scared of it, and it's not because they're not tech savvy, because a lot of them, they work in tech companies. Also, it's not that they're tech savvy, but I think they're almost scared of the unknown, because it's so different, and it's so, they're just like, oh, how does Snapchat work? Why does this disappear? So just a lot of like confusion, a lot of confusion because they don't know, again, knowledge being the key sort of missing ingredient there. So my thing is learn. Number one is use it. Figure out that this is something that you have to leverage, because we're literally living in a world where social is everything, and it's going to take up so much more of the market share of just businesses and like business revenue, over the next 5 years, 10 years. And that's why my company is going to also special in social strategy for companies, right? So it's not just something cute to have anymore. Brands are generating sales via ads on Twitter, so this is not some cute little, oh, let's talk to our fans, thing anymore. Like it's literally a business need. And we're a great example. You find networks, you find connections, you find people with similar interests, you find mentors, literally a tweet. And if that person responds to you, now you have, a sort of working relationship, right? So if this person messages you, you message them, you can meet offline for coffee. Like this is amazing, because otherwise, like how would you meet people? Like, I don't know. Like I literally don't know, because, the people that you meet in your circles are very curated, right? So it's literally like, for you, it'll be education professionals, which is great, but that doesn't give you any other perspective, So for me, it's like a lot of, business people, a lot of this, but I don't really talk to scientists on a daily basis, right? So if I reach out to some scientists on Twitter, I'd be like, hey, wow, amazing research, would love to hear more. And let's say we do coffee in San Francisco or New York or whatever. Now I just know more, what do I gain? Knowledge, knowledge is power, so I definitely want everybody listening to understand that this is not always about sort of what can they do for me and what can I do for them, but it's also just about like learning, because I've never met someone, and me, like, knowledge has never harmed me. Knowing more about something has never harmed me. So even reaching out to some random, artist and saying, oh my God, how do you paint? Like that's helpful information for down the line, so figuring out that it's important, number one, figuring out how each works. So, like just research, how does Facebook work? How does Twitter work? Why would I use Twitter? Why would I use Instagram? Why would I use Snapchat? Really helpful to learn about these different platforms, because I went through that too. I was totally new to Twitter 2 years ago, and like I had to learn. I was like, oh, 140 characters. Wait, why? The genesis being like, short messages, right? Because you don't want sort of paragraphs. It's hard to keep track. So learn about these different platforms and just be brave. I think that's the hardest part, is being brave and just reaching out. It's hard to make that first move, in any relationship, but especially sort of online, you're like, oh, this person doesn't know me. But I've never had any kind of, like, oh, who are you or anything, like people are generally, because the thing is, like, if you're online and you have a public Twitter account, like you're not going to be scandalized if somebody reaches out to you, you know what I mean? I think if you target like a private account, then it makes sense that this person be like, why are you reaching me? But it's like, if they're on LinkedIn, they're on Twitter, they're on, Facebook or whatever, like these are public platforms, and so to me that signals that they're open to connection, right? As opposed to someone who like you'd potentially piss off by like emailing them or whatever, so it's not that hard. But I think like it's changed my life. It has changed my life. I was discovered on Twitter. I don't know if I told you this story, but I was
Oh, yeah.
literally, yeah, I was literally discovered on Twitter, like told to sign with a publicist, which is why everything has happened, which is why I now have a new career because of her, because of Twitter, you know? So I just want to emphasize that I'm not just, you know, being paid by Twitter to talk about Twitter. Like it's like it's changed my life, you know, and all because I created an account, posted a couple of tweets, reached out to a couple of people, and was brave in that effort. You know, I wasn't waiting for people to message me because at that point I had like 0 followers. Who's going to message me, you know? But just reaching out and saying, hey, you know, love your work, and just appreciating people before you ask something of them is so powerful, because I think it's a little rare. So when that happens, you're noticed a lot faster. So literally me being like, Dr. Will, you're amazing. Would love to learn more about education. Are you in SF? Let's meet. And again, being careful. Like I'm not about, you know, reaching out to sketchy people, you know, so I recognize that this is public and, you know, it's public. So sort of using your, you know, caution and who you reach out to. But if this person, you know, is typically educated, you know, professional, and I don't see too much of a harm. But you always want to be careful, obviously, you know, because these are all public platforms. And like for me, I, you know, exercise a lot of judgment in terms of who I actually meet. And actually, it might not just be meeting. Maybe can we do a call? I think that's the safest, you know. And if you don't want to give your number, do a hangout. You know, do a hangout and just, you know, forget the video. Just, you know, just talk. So just being careful about that, because I recognize that it is public. You don't want to meet some sketchy person who is potentially trouble, you know. So just keeping that in mind. But overall, super helpful. Changed my life. I cannot say enough good things about social media.
Awesome. Awesome. Excuse me. Now, before we go, I want your call to action for those folks who want to claim their inner boss.
Ooh, that's deep. Ooh, that's deep. That's deep. Okay, so number one, do it. Right? I think we all have a boss inside us. Some have just found it. Others are in the process of finding it. So I never want to hear, I'm not a boss. False, right? Not true. Everyone has it. Just a matter of finding it. So I think number two is empower yourself, right? I see this all the time. People disrespect themselves, disrespect their intellect, disrespect their bodies, disrespect their knowledge, you know, like putting themselves down, like, oh, I'm not good, you know, I'm just a boy, you know, like, or just whatever. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Because if I come up to you and you say that I'm not that good, would I ever hire you? Would I ever take you on my team? Would I ever like do any, like, why would I want to even be with you? You know what I mean? So that's something that I learned very early on, because I've kind of grown up sort of on my own, not with a million people all the time, is that I think I'm amazing. I really do. I think that I am amazing. I think that I'm going to change the world. I don't care if anyone else does. I hope they do, you know, but I think that. And that's been very powerful for me, because everything that I've done, I have written that story. But whereas a lot of people that I know constantly put themselves down, and they're never able to get to where they want to go because they're constantly putting themselves down, right? So I think number two is empower yourself. So whether that's just talking every day, being like, dude, to yourself, you're amazing. You know, you are amazing. You're beautiful. You're talented. You're capable. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're literally looking into the mirror and saying that every single day. If that's what it takes, do it, right? Because I cannot stand to see that anymore. You know, there have been people who've messaged me saying, would love to start my own business. Oh, too bad, in corporate. And I'm like, is that, so you respect your dreams so little to give up on them immediately? Wow. Like, what does that tell me about you? That tells me that you have no self-respect. Seriously. It tells me that you do not respect yourself enough to achieve what you want to achieve. And that's something that I take very seriously, because for me, like, my dreams are not a joke. Whereas for some people, I feel like they treat their dreams as a joke, which is why they're not able to accomplish them. You know, so number two is empower yourself. You know, take yourself seriously before you want somebody else to take yourself seriously. You know, and then number three is action. You know, talk is great, empowerment is great, but action is where it's at, right? So figuring out sort of what is that action plan that I need to create to achieve these goals. And I don't want to hear, oh, it's so hard. I mean, it's not that hard, right? I mean, what is it? Like, oh, I have to get this body. Oh, it's working out every day. It's eating right. It's learning about accounting. whatever, whatever it is, right? So, and literally, if you have access to Wi-Fi and you have a dream, you have no excuse. Like, I literally will not tolerate anything unless you are like super underprivileged, no Wi-Fi. Then I'll be like, you know what, that's really hard. But if you have Wi-Fi, you have, you know, decent balance in your account, you have a dream, you have dedication, you have drive, you have grit. Like, literally, dude, like, nothing is impossible. So make it happen. Today's the day. Claim your inner boss.
Wow. Tell you,
That was a lot. That was a lot, but
he's coming in smacking folks. He's smacking you. Wake up. Go make it happen.
This is something that I've noticed very recently, that people, I just hear that they're putting themselves down a lot. And my thing is, if you say that to yourself, then how are you going to get anywhere? Right? Like, if I wake up to being like, you know, I'm so young. Am I even like good enough to be a CEO? Like, is that damaging conversation, you know? So like, might as well be like, oh yeah, I'm young, but I can learn everything, right? So let me learn, so I just feel very strongly about that, you know, from people disrespecting their selves, their bodies, their just everything, you know, and especially the dreams, you know, because if you're willing to give up on your dreams that easily, it, to me, as a third person, it means that you have zero self-respect, really. Because to me, you're saying that I'm not worthy of owning my own business. So why bother? Screw it. Like, is that like what you want, you know? So, but then her logic is going to be like, it's so hard, da, da, da. And I'm like, well, no shit, it's hard. Like, you know, it is hard, but there's a way to do it if you want to do it, you know? But to me, when you say something like, oh, I'm in corporate, oh, well, to me, that's like, you don't really want to do it. So yeah, I guess you're not going to do it, you know? So I think being very honest with yourself, you know, is this something that you really want? Because if it is, then there's a lot of work involved, you know, there's a lot of sacrifices involved. But if you really want to do it, there is a way to do it. So just respecting yourself enough to really, I mean, to not give up on yourself. I mean, like, it's not that hard to me. Like, it's not a hard concept, but I just see it a lot, you know, of people just literally giving up on themselves. I'm like, dude, you give up on yourself, like, all is lost, right?
I hear you. And that's why this year, one of the things I'm going to be championing and trying to start a campaign is about invest in you, EDU. And I'm going to have some blog posts and some shows, some webinars about these different topics, which are truly about you as an individual making the investment in yourself to say, I'm worthy.
There you go.
And I'm going out there and I'm going to take what is mine.
There you go.
And not wait for someone to give you a seat at the table.
There you go. No, seriously, like, it's and I get it. It's hard, you know, but it's mind blowing to me how many people up so easily, because to me, it's not just giving up on running your own company. It's giving up on a dream that you had of yourself that you no longer think that you are worthy of doing. You know, so it's, to me, that's a big blow. Because I'm like, look, because, you know, like, I'm in a total public space right now, right? People could be calling me whatever they want, saying whatever they want. But my thing is, if I'm good here, like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm good in here, then I'm fine. The minute I'm not good here, I'm screwed. You know, so that's my point, is it all begins and ends with you in terms of, and then, you know, we go back to sort of mental health, you know, being sort of in a positive frame of mind. But if you believe in yourself, you're going to do it. You know, if you lose that, you're screwed. You know, it's as simple as that. It really is.
Awesome. We got Jenny worked up tonight, y'all. We got her worked up. So everyone, thanks again for tuning in to this episode. As always, this is going up on my blog. This is going up on SoundCloud. This will be on YouTube as well. I'm going to put it on Facebook, LinkedIn. It's going everywhere. And it's going to be information on how to be able to connect with Shinjini on different platforms as well. So people, I'm going to close out the show again with invest in you, EDU, peace. Thanks for being a guest on the show, Shinjini.
Thank you.